Okay, so good day, and in this finals discussion, we'll be discussing topics about decisions recognizing risks and decisions admitting uncertainty. So we only have two major topics here, and under the first one, we have the expected monetary values and discounted decision tree analysis. Tapos yung sunod is we'll be talking about sensitivity analysis and decision analysis models. So basically, itong mga to is additional alternative methods where we can actually parang evaluate yung mga projects natin. But these methods are really not common na. Pero we still have to discuss it anyway. So, first one is the decisions recognizing risk. Before kasi, what we have discussed, yung mga mutually exclusive alternatives, independent projects, those projects were not considering yung any risks na involved. Kasi the past data that we have is or are not enough to provide yung parang probability risk na meron ng ating certain monetary value. But if you have a data wherein it can somehow translate the monetary value of a certain product, yung mga revenues mo, in a way na you can assign mga certain percentages or probabilities dun sa certain expected mo na revenue, then we can use yung ating expected monetary value of alternatives. And in this case, the expected value, which is the E of capital X, is simply the sum of the probability of a specific value X and then, of course, multiplied by its variable X. So, ganun lang siya kasimple. Pag-add-in lang natin. Diba in statistics, we used to have this expected value wherein you have a lot of probabilities and then the probability of occurring this one by multiplied by a certain quantity and then you just add them after multiplying. So, ganun lang yung gagawin natin dito. In a way kasi na yung X natin is monetary value lang. So, let's have the example number 1. A downtown hotel is offering a new service for weekend travelers through its business and travel center. The manager estimates that for a typical weekend, there is a 50% chance of having a net cash flow of 5,000 and a 35% chance of 10,000. He also estimates there is a small chance or 5% of no cash flow and a 10% chance of a loss of $500, which is the estimated extra personnel and utility cost to offer the service. So determine the expected net cash flow. So again, utilizing the concept of the expected value E of X is equal to the sum from, of course, I is equal to 1 to M. And then this is your Xi and then P of Xi. So this is just the general formula and we'll just have to apply that in our scenario here. So E of X is of course equal to ano ba yung una natin? Sabi natin, meron tayong net cash flow of 5,000. So, this cash flow is automatically parang revenue natin. So, 5,000, multiply natin yung percentage na, hindi pala yan. Ito pala, 50%. So, that's 0.5. Then, ano pa ba yung mga revenue natin? So, meron tayong plus 10,000. Then, times 0.35. And then, meron tayong small chance na wala tayong cash flow. So, pwede sabihin natin na 0 and then 0.05. And then, ano pa yung last? So, ito, lost to. So, we have to subtract that. And then, that's 500 and then 0.1. Of course, all the probability points should be equal to 1. So, dapat 0.5 plus 0.35 plus 0.05 plus 0.10 would be equal to 1. So, therefore, the sum of this would be 5,950. So, in short, this amount, you're expecting this amount in this hotel that you're operating. So, for example, you want to estimate or give an estimate. Ano ba yung kikitain natin in this case? Kasi diba, you have a lot of, for example, you have a lot of products. So, you can designate mga certain probabilities of these products and then yung kita nila and then you can have the expected value. And that's what is being applied here. Syempre, hotel lang to. So, ang ginawa niya, instead of parang products, he estimated the probabilities of having this, yung mga bayad. Probably this is more on the selection of the room of the certain people na in-estimate nila. So technically, pwede nila isipin na 50% na mapupunta doon is choosing yung mga hotel rooms na worth 5,000 while 35% of them chose to go with a 10,000 room service. So it's like something like that. So yun lang naman yun, and just add them and then you'll be getting this answer. Okay, so that's it for number 1. And let's have number 2. An electric utility is experiencing a difficult time obtaining natural gas for electric generation. So fuels other than natural gas are purchased at an extra cost, which is transferred to the customer. Total monthly fuel expenses are now averaging 7,750,000. A chemical engineer with the city-owned utility has calculated the average revenue for the past 24 months using 3 fuel mix situations: gas plentiful, less than 30% other fuel purchase, and 30% or more other fuels. The following table indicates the number of months that each fuel mix situations occurred. Can the utility expect to meet the future monthly expenses based on the 24 months of data if a similar fuel mix pattern continues? So in short, nagkakaroon tayo ng mga mixture dito ng mga fuel. And then this is the fuel mix situations that we have. So ito yung mga fuel mix situation. That's gas plentiful minus 30% other, and then greater than or 30% other. So in the past 24 months, 12 months yung gas plentiful, 6 months yung 30% other, and then greater than 30% yung 6 months then. So for a total of 1 year. And then the average revenue per month are, as you can see, it's stable. So using the data in months, the probabilities as follow. So in short, the probabilities can be related in a way na you have a sample space. Since you're given with the data for 1 year, and then syempre per month to, so you can expect that the probability will be obtained based on the monthly na ginagamit yung certain project or material or object. So dun mo kukunin ngayon yung probability. So in this case, ginawa natin yan yung probability by dividing this to 24. And then after obtaining these values, so meron tayong probability. After that, you can actually multiply it to the values here. So ito, E sub x is equal to 527,000. So ito yon. And then multiply natin to sa 12 over 24. So ito yun, that's why it's 0.5. Then you add 7,850,000. So ina-add natin to lahat kasi revenue sila. And then 6 over 24, that's 25%. And then 12130, then 6 over 24 then. So that's 25. And then we subtract itong portion na to based on the first paragraph natin. Ano ba yung second paragraph ata yun? Basta somewhere here, ayun, total monthly fuel expenses are now averaging 7,750,000. Also 7,750,000. So, isusubtract natin yun kasi that is incorporated in the expected value. Kasi dapat ay lagyan mo ng mga losses if ever there are losses. So, yun lang yun. And then minus, and then you'll be getting negative 120,000. So, you have to expect na in the expected value, you should be expecting values na either positive or negative. So, nagne-negative sila once na we consider costs, and then meron tayong mga revenues. So, yung cost kasi pwede naman na positive, pero you have to make sure na cost lahat yon. And may report mo siya na cost siya para hindi mo kailangan na ilagay na negative. Pero when it comes to revenues and costs, you have to make sure na gawin mo positive yung revenues and then negative yung cost para makita natin kung ano ba yung pinagkaiba ng dalawang yan. Kasi syempre hindi man pwede magkaparehas yun ng sign, diba? So, yun lang. And then, since nag-negative to, kasi meron tayong costs and then revenues. So, ang conclusion dyan, if this pattern continues, the utility will no longer meet the future expenses. Bakit ganon? Kasi negative yung ating expected value. So, you don't continue a project with a negative expected value. Same thing with the equivalent value or equivalent worth of a certain project. Once this equivalent worth or the expected value become negative, then you have to replan or do another cash flow diagram that could or increase your MAR or decrease the MAR depending on the situation. So, you have to address that issue before the future comes na ganun pa rin yung pattern ng any cash flow mo that you have. Okay, so for number 3, I think this is the last for this case. And napakadali kasi expected value, just multiply it with the percentage and then add. So, ganito lang yung case. If ever there is, let's say you have a lot of projects or you have a lot of variables, no? And then there is some point wherein ang sum nila is 0.95 lang, and then meron dong isang part na wala pa siyang percentage, pero alam mo naman na syempre 1 dapat yung sum. So automatically that is the difference between 1 and that 0.95. So 0.05 siya automatically. So sometimes in mga ganong case, those are the tricky questions. But di naman talaga siya sobrang tricky kasi by mathematical ano naman is ganun lang talaga siya gagawin. So the lightweight wheelchair company has a substantial investment in tubular steel bending equipment. A new piece of equipment costs $5,000 and has a life of 3 years. Estimated cash flows shown in the table depend on economic conditions classified by receding, stable, or expanding. So ito yung 3 cases wherein we can estimate yung ating annuities. So we have receding, stable, and expanding. A probability is estimated that each of the economic conditions will prevail during 3-year period. So ganito yung yung parang sense nung ating ginagawa before, unlike this decision tree this decisions recognizing risk. Before kasi, since we're not considering decisions recognizing risk, for example, we want to evaluate under the receding section here. So we will consider that the probability is 100% that all the annual cash flows are receding. So parang ganun yung nangyayari dun sa ating previous na scenario. So in this case kasi, we're considering na the receding is 20%, the stable 60%, and then the expanding is 20%. So ganun yung naging case. And then sabi dito, apply expected value and PW analysis to determine if the equipment should be purchased and use an MA or use a MA market minimum attractive rate of return of 15% per year. So in short, we have to determine yung ating expected value considering all of these scenarios appearing on the 3rd year. But ano ba yung maging problema dito? Since we have a lot of values here and then it occurs from 0 to 3rd year, so ano ba yung gagawin natin muna? So first of all, you have to compute for the present worth of all these values and then ganun yung ginawa dito. Okay, so for example, dun sa receding, meron tayong mga cash flow. So meron tayong expenses, meron tayong revenues, so ganyan, 3 revenues, and then dinala natin siya lahat sa future. So ganun lang yung nangyari dyan. And then by doing that, these are the formulas or these are the solution. So initially, negative 5,000 tayo kasi wala naman tayong, hindi naman tayo ginalaw dun, nasa present sa siya. And you can also think of this negative 5,000 as your investment cost. And then 2,500 is your revenue. So 2,500, 1.15 kasi that is, diba, that's 2,500 times 1 plus 0.15 raised to negative n. Ano ba yung negative n mo? That's 1 year lang, so minus 1. And then yung sunod natin sa cash flow diagram, halimbawa, 2nd year na, so dadalhin mo na siya sa present, so 2 years na siya. So ito, negative 2 and then negative 3. So that's the concept of the present worth. So hopefully guess nyo na yan, tandaan nyo na yan, no? Present worth, and then present worth. So after determining the values of the present worth, kasi yun yung mas mahalaga dito, the expected value is equal to, ano ba yung present worth ng receding? So the present worth of the receding is negative 656.2834. That is, yun yung i-report nyo when it comes to the solution na ginawa natin before, like evaluate the project if it's economical or not. So you might be saying na it's negative, so it's not economical. Pero yun nga, since we're recognizing the risks here, the decision should be accompanied with the probability of each case. So that's why yung E sub x or E of x is multiplied with their corresponding probability values. So in this case, that's 0.2. And then, ano ba yung sa stable? So stable plus present worth is negative 433.5498. Multiply natin sa 0.6. And then you add the 1308.8683. And then 0.2. So from this, the expected value is negative 129.6129. So ang kagandahan nitong ginawa natin na decisions under risk is that we accounted the probabilities na magkakaroon tayo ng negative cash flow. So technically cash outflow to. So considering all of that, and then meron tayong inflow naman pag expanding. So ano ba yung expected value natin kapag kinonsider natin lahat ng factors na yun? And in this case, na-prove naman natin na negative pa rin siya. Although you can just judge from the receding and stable na negative talaga yung magiging sagot. But of course, parang magkakaroon ka dyan ng parang thinking na, pero may profit pa rin tayo sa expanding. Would it be beneficial still if we want to continue? So the answer is to do the expected value analysis. And we have proven in this analysis na it's still not economical to purchase this certain equipment. Kasi kung napansin natin na sa expanding, hindi kaya ng expanding natin na condition yung mga sa receding and stable. So yun. And that's it for our expected value. So hopefully nag-gets nyo ng concept. Just multiply with the probability and then yung value and then add. So yun, and then we can now proceed with the decision tree analysis. So itong decision tree, ito yung yung inclusion niya, no? More than one stage of alternative selection, selection of an alternative at one stage that leads to another stage, expected results from a decision at each stage, probability estimates of each outcome, estimates of economic value, cost or revenue for each outcome, and then the measure of worth as the selection criterion, such as the expected value of the PW. So the decision tree is constructed left to right and includes each possible decisions and outcome. Although yung decision tree analysis, actually, pwede naman siya pababa. Pero sometimes, since mahaba siya, mas or better na gamitin natin is from left to right na. So, a square represents a decision node. Ito yun, mga designation natin. So, pag square, decision node siya with a possible alternative indicated on the branches from the decision node. And then a circle represents a probability node with possible outcomes and estimated probabilities in the branches. And then, all outcomes always follow decisions, and then the structure will be like this. So, this is your decision node. Okay, so you have to decide in this case, kaya nga decision node siya. So these are the alternatives and then the decision node. So parang ganon. And then the probability node is madidivide siya kung ano ba yung yung mga probabilities na mag-exist. So technically lagi lang itong 1. So 0.5, 0.2, 0.3. So yun, pag pinag-add mo yan 1 yan. So technically you have to make a decision here, and then yun sa decision na yun, it will come up with two nodes with probabilities depending on the situation, and then with this you have to also make another decision, so the probability ulit. So yun, and then yung final outcome mo is yung pinakadulo nitong mga to, kung wala ka nang kailangan mag-decide kasi that's also our choice. So yun, and then another one is that decisions are made using the probability estimate and economic value estimate. So this is actually the parang expected value natin. Ito yun, E-decision. So if you are able to determine something like the positive expected value, then should be your answer. So kung hindi lang siya yung positive, most probably that is the greatest number or the greatest value. So ganun lang naman yung case natin, di ba? Kahit naman sa present worth or dun sa mga annual worth, pag pumipili tayo yung mas malaki pa rin. So in this case, that would be your expected value na pipiliin natin. And then ito yung general procedure ng present worth analysis ng decision tree. So number 1, you start at the top right of the tree and then determine the PW value for each outcome branch considering the time value of money. So actually wala pala dito yun, but let's have it later. So, you need to calculate the expected value for each decision alternative. So, di ba meron kayong PW doon na makukuha? So, you multiply that with the corresponding probability. And then, yung summation on is you take all the possible outcomes for each decision alternative. And then, number 3, at each decision node, so yun yung D natin, select the best decision with the minimum cost or the maximum value. So, yun. If ever nga pala walang revenue, kasi sometimes wala tayong revenue, edi minimum cost gagamitin natin. And then, continue moving to the left of the tree to the root decision in order to select the best alternative. Kasi diba sometimes yung decision natin, after deciding that I will go with this project, so marami pa siyang under na mutually exclusive alternatives, so you also have to make the best choice within those mutually exclusive alternatives. And then trace the best decision path back through the tree. Okay, so let's have the problem here. At medyo mahaba tong problem na to, no? So si Jerry Hill is a president and CEO of an American-based food processing company, Hill Products and Services. He was recently approached by an international supermarket chain that wants to market in country its own brand of frozen microwavable dinners. The offer made to Jerry by the supermarket corporation. So dito nag-start yung magulo nating kwento, no? Though magulo siya sa una talaga pag binasa. So requires that a series of 2 decisions be made now and 2 years hence. So 2 years in the future or now. So ang tip ko sa inyo kung nasa decision tree na tayo, gagawin natin is tatagalog tayo lagi ng ng sentence para mas magets nyo yung nangyayari. I'm not saying na hindi mo kinakaintindi English. I'm saying na pag tinagalog nyo kasi mas magagets nyo yung yung nangyayari dun sa kwento, no? So, ang gagawin daw ni Jerry is you have to decide now and then yung 2 years in the future yung mangyayari. sa market mo, gano'n. So, the current decision involves two alternatives. So, yung gagawin mong decision ngayon, meron siyang dalawang alternatives. Lease a facility in the United Arab Emirates from the supermarket chain which has agreed to convert a current processing facility for immediate use by Jair's company. So, itong sentence na itong from the supermarket chain which has agreed to convert a current processing blah blah blah. Actually, wala na yung sense sa atin, no? Wala tayong pakialam doon. Kasi importante sa atin yung malaman natin yung mga outcomes natin dito sa decisions na to, no? So, number 2, build and own a processing and packaging facility in the United Arab Emirates. So, that is UAE, hindi yung UAB. So, possible outcomes of this first decision stage are good market or poor market depending upon the public's response. So, yun sa una nating choice, it could be good or bad lang yung kakalabasan natin or good or poor, diba? So, yun yung decision natin na we have to think for this present time, no? And then the decision choice 2 years hence, so ito na yung nasa future na tayo, no? Dependent yun dun sa gagawin nating decision today. So, if Hill decides to lease a good market response, means that the future decision alternatives are to produce twice equal to or 1/2 of the original volume. So, kung maganda yung market na na-produce na before, so ngayon in the future, you can produce twice equal or 1/2 of the original volume. And then, this will be a mutual decision between the supermarket chain and Jair's company. So, wala tayong pakalam sa sentence na yun. Ito yung importante, but a poor market response will indicate a 1/2 level of production or complete removal from the UAE market. So, outcomes for the future decisions are again, good, poor market response. So, in short, pag pangit yung na-produce ni Jerry, it's either kailangan na lang siyang mag-produce ng 1/2 or complete removal sa UAE market. Pero we're talking about in the future na, no? So, as agreed naman the supermarket company, if ang decision niya is to own the facility, it will allow him to set the production level 2 years hence, and then if the market response is good, the decision alternative are 4 or 2 times original level, and then the reaction to poor market response will be production at the same level or no production at all. So we have to construct the tree of decisions and outcomes for Hill products and services. So ang gagawin natin dito na pinaka-major step is to summarize what happened in the story. Story na kasi sobrang haba, no? So ito yung yung ganito siya ginagawa, no? Usually, yung decision na lalagyan mo lang ng label D1. So, yun, D1. And then, alternatives. Ano ba yung outcome ng decisions na yun? So, you can either lease or own. So, yun agad. Label. So, D1 decision. And then, under nun, alternatives. And then, after no alternatives mo, outcome naman. Good and poor. And then, decision ulit. So, outcome. And then, choice of production. And then, kung ano ba yung mga choice of production na yun. So, itong choice of production na yun, ito na yung pinakaparang dulo or root na to ng ating decision tree. So, we started the tree with this decision. So, dito natin ngayon tingnan para mas magets natin. So, di ba sabi natin doon sa unang kwento, the choice is to either lease or to own your company. Or own na lang yung available na parang lot. So with this, that's your first decision sa company. So that's your D1. And then it will diverge into lease and own. So doon tayo magbe-base ngayon kung ano yung mangyayari. It's either you lease or you own. Kung magli-lease ka, so ipaplan mo naman ngayon yung 2 years in the future. So ito yung magiging plano mo sa 2 years in the future. Kung magli-lease ka, it can either have a good or poor market outcome. Kung mag-own ka naman, is either good or poor outcome din, di ba? So, yun lang naman yung ating magiging results. And either way, you have to make sure na ipaplan mo pa rin siya 2 years hence. So, if the market is good, papasok ngayon yung first decision mo. The market is good, and then you can go back to this sentence. The market is good, and then the decision mo is 2 years hence. So, ito yon, good market. The future decision alternative are to produce twice, equal, or 1/2. So, ito yon, yung twice, equal, or 1/2. That's 2, 1, 1 and 0.5. And then, sabi natin lagi, any decision in the roots will always produce either a good or poor market. Kaya, good or poor din yung last decision natin dito. Okay? And then, next one is, kapag naman in the future tayo, and then, nag-lease yung ating first decision. So, ito yon yung nag-lease tayo. Pero, poor yung ating market. So, nasan ba dito yun? Poor market response. So, 1/2 and then complete removal. So, kaya dito is 0.5 and then 0. So that means out of business na. I-remove na yon. Hindi na tayo magpapatuloy. So ganun lang yung concept. And then I hope you can understand that in this scenario wherein you would want to own yung place na yon. So pag in-own mo, you can have the decision wherein you can have a good market sa simula. So pag good market, you can either quadruple or double the production level. So of course that a certain decision will yield to either good or poor market. And then pag naman poor, then you can just retain the original production level and then make it or do not produce at all. So out of business na. So ganun ang decision tree analysis. So in short, since wala tayong certain probabilities wherein we can simply say na okay, I have 30% chance of having a good business when I chose to have, let's say, a 0.5 production dito. So wala talagang ganun kasi hindi naman specified. So you might be thinking that this should be 1/3 probability para sa lahat and equal probabilities yan kung isipin mo mabuti. But then again, usually binibigay yan and then we multiply each of them to select the best possible route. In this case, let's say good 1, D2, and then balik tayo sa D1. So pwedeng ganun yan. Pero since wala naman binigay, so we can just stop there by just the creation of the decision tree. Okay, and for number 2, a decision is needed to either market or sell a new invention. If the product is marketed, the next decision is to take it international or national. Assume that the details of the outcome branches result to the decision tree given, and then the probabilities for each outcome and PW of CFBT are indicated. So unlike the number 1, this certain number has a probability. So in this case, we can actually determine yung best natin na probably yun nga yung best natin na decision that we can do. So these payoffs are in millions of dollars and determine the best decision of the decision node 1. So pwede tayong gumawa ng best decision dito kasi may probability sa binigay. Pero kung wala naman, then it's quite impossible for us to determine that. So I don't think kailangan ko pa tong sabihin sa inyo kasi though pwede nyo mabasahin yan, pero let's go to the figure na. Kasi sabi dito kasi the probabilities for each outcome and PW of CFBT are indicated. So ito yung decision node D1 natin. Ano ba yung best decision that we can have there? So ito actually is na-fill out na tong solution na to, no? But ito kasi yung nawawala dyan. Itong mga expected value na yan, wala yan before. So let's try to solve for each of them. And then yung given lang talaga dyan is ito lang. Ito mga yan. Yan lang yan. Okay, so let's start having this 14. Sabi ang 14 is expected value. So how do you determine this expected value? Based on this node, diba, this is a node. So na-split siya into 50% chance of having $12 million and $16 million CFPT. So therefore, this expected value, di galing lang yan dito. 0.5 times 12 plus 0.5 times 16. So this yields 14. So ito yun. Then how about 0.2? So that's the same concept. E sub x is equal to 0.4 times 4 plus 0.4 times negative 3 plus 0.2 times negative 1. So this gives you 0.2. Okay, so ganun lang yan. And that is also how you solve for 4.2 and 2 on the latter part of D3. But ang concern natin is D1, yung best node there. So, okay tayo dito. So hopefully gets yun na yun, concept na 14.2 and 4.2. So ngayon, since meron na tayong expected value of the nodes, okay? So meron na tayong value niyan. So after that, since we've already determined yung mga expected values natin, 14.2, 4.2, and then 2. So after that, we have to select yung highest natin expected value and then you will write that above the decision node. So that is 14. In this case, ano ba yun? 4.2 or 2? That's 4.2. So you have to write that above the node natin na square. So essentially, wala yan before, wala to before, wala rin yan, wala rin yan. So, and then lalagyan natin ngayon ng values yon. After that, you select the one with the highest expected value and then you write that above the decision node. Okay? And then of course, itong 0.2 and then 0.8, given na yan. Kasi syempre, it's parang probability yan. So, given na yan, may chance. So, after that, ano yung maging expected value nun kung given na siya? So, that's E of x is equal to 14 times 0.2 plus 4.2 times 0.8. So, this gives you 6.16. That's the expected value above this node. Okay? And then how about this value? So alam naman natin na 9 lang to, and then syempre 1 lang yan. So therefore 9 din to, expected value natin, 'di ba? And then after that, ano ba yung mas pipili natin? So pipili natin is yung 9. That means na ang ating best decision is to sell, not to market. Okay? So, yun lang yun. Ang ibig sabihin lang nung sell the invention is that may bibiling iba nung invention mo. So, magiging kanya na rin yung patent nun, yung copyright nun. Pero ito kasing market, parang gawin natin is magbebenta pa tayo ganun. Gawin mo pang international, national. So, ibenta mo na lang yung patent nung invention na yun. Mas mabilis kasi mas mataas yung expected value. So, yun yung nangyari dito sa story na to. So, yan, na-makeover ko na nawala yung mga important details natin. So, ang kinompute natin ngayon or kanina is yung mga values niyan na pwedeng ilagay dito, mga expected value. So, basta E sub x lang yung formula nun. And then, whatever is the highest expected value that you have under the same decision tree, so you have to write that above the decision node natin. And then, after that, yung decision nodes na yun, magkakaroon ulit ng expected new value. And then, yung decision node, yung final na yun, would be the last decision that you have to make. So, technically, you start with the root and then you end up with the parang mismong dun sa pinaka beginning nung or top of the tree natin. Okay, so, ganun lang siya kasimple. And I think magpapahirap lang lagi sa atin sa decision tree is yung complication ng problem. Kasi sometimes it's difficult to understand and you have to just understand what happens and then generate the conclusion after creating the decision tree. Okay, so yun, that's it, the decision tree. That is the decisions recognizing risk. And then the last topic that we have is the decisions admitting uncertainty. Actually, halos kakaparehas lang tong mga concept nila, no? We're making decisions na wala talaga tayong kasiguraduhan. Yun yung bottom line ng itong finals na to. But let's have some concepts muna with decisions admitting uncertainty.